This is my 1956 Land Rover Series 1 109. Now, she didn't always sound like this, run like this, and she certainly didn't look like this. What you're about to see is a snapshot of the 18-month restoration journey we've undertaken so far. And that this is going to be the first of a series of videos. So let's hop out. I'll walk you around the car. Let's go get our hands dirty. So this is Lilybet. She's a 1956 Land Rover Series 1 in the 109 variant, so the longest wheelbase that they ever made. And I came across Lilybet about 18 months ago after a long, arduous search online through the forums, through for sale ads, through auction sites, etc. I even investigated purchasing one from the UK or from South Africa and having it shipped in. Fortunately, I was able to find Lilybet on a local auction site down in the south coast of Australia. What makes Lilybet so unique is that being the 109 variant, being a 56, so the first year again that they produced the 109s, is that they only ever produced 1,153 of them. So she certainly is a very, very unique vehicle. And to this point, in the 18 months that I've owned her, I'm yet to see another 109 Series 1 in working road condition, or actually working order. Now, when I purchased Lilybet, as I said, she was a farm find, and she was probably in the condition worthy of being called a farm find. Mechanically running very, very rough. She had loads of rust in the two main areas of where you'll find them in the series vehicles, which of course is the bulkhead and then in the chassis. She was from a seaside town as well, so you can imagine that moisture and the sea salt air went a long way to helping that rust and continue that journey through. She did come with the hard top, but she was leaking. The seals were terrible that were within as well. She certainly would not have made the 12-hour journey up to Sydney. So from there, it was a 2 to 3 week process of organising interstate trucking, the transportation from the farm. I was actually very fortunate to have a friend who was only 15 minutes away. So we transported her from the owner's farm to his farm for 2 weeks. We were then able to organise to get it then shipped up to Sydney. So about 2 to 3 weeks before she actually arrived here. Now, my original plans were to get her mechanically sound and roadworthy, but really not to go to the extent as to what we've ended up with, which I'm sure happens on most restoration journeys. What's important to note as you follow us along the restoration journey is that this isn't about having Lilybet to concours condition. It's about restoring her to somewhat her former glory, but also being able to use her on the daily basis as well. So the very first thing that I did when I acquired the vehicle, long before we took the roof off, long before we touched the mechanicals, was actually pulled off the nudge bar, the front bar, and actually rubbed it back and cold galved it. Now, I know it's not true galvanizing, it's not a hot dip, but it was a cold gal, and that was just something for me to, I guess, to start to show the love and the care that I'm actually taking on the vehicle. So that was the first piece that we actually did. Pulled off the front grille, and then gave that a little bit of a tidy up, and then actually put in a four-wheel drive bar, which it's nice hidden, a four-wheel drive light bar. So it's nice and hidden behind the grille. The reason that I did that is I wanted to keep these as original as possible. And we all know when driving at night, we might as well be driving by candlelight. So I didn't want to change these to LED. I know some people have, and that's fine. But for me, I wanted to keep them as original as possible. But I also wanted to be able to use the car at night. So that's why I put the light bar in. That was probably the next phase of pieces, and then switched out the globes within the front headlight. Took off any of these pieces. So we took off the bonnet locks, the latches, sorry. We took off the bonnet latches and again, rubbed those back and again, just a cold gal that's on those as well. So the first thing we had to undertake was obviously mechanics. She didn't have the spare wheel carrier, she didn't have the spare wheel, sorry, on the bonnet. It was located where they are in the most of the utilities in the back. So that was another later addition. What we have is a matching number, so that's engine and chassis, 2-litre petrol, 4-cylinder with overhead valve, side exhaust, Solex carby, producing a whopping 52 horsepower. Now we know that these engines were not about going fast, they were about going anywhere, and of course withstanding the test of time as well. So as we said, the engine was running a little rough when we first got it to us. So to understand this engine, it's a really simple 3 steps, right? It could either be air, fuel, or spark. So the air intake system within this car is actually an oil bath air cleaner, which is this guy right here. What happens is that the air comes in through the top vents, it's actually falls down to the bottom, in which there's actually an oil reservoir. What the oil reservoir does is that captures a bigger dust and dirt particles. It then sends that filtered air back up through the top of the system, and then the clean filtered air, or more filtered air at least, then gets pushed back into the carby. So pulled it apart, gave it a clean up, changed the oil over obviously, and then just gave it a bit of a tidy up as well. And that did go some way to improving the performance of the engine. Fuel was next. The fuel gets pumped from the tank via 2 fuel filters, then into a sediment bowl, or via a sediment bowl, and then obviously into the carby from there. So we replaced the 2 fuel filters, cleaned out the sediment bowl, replaced a few of the lines, particularly the ones going into the carby. And yes, that did go, again, another step further to improving the performance. So after fuel, it was time to look at spark. First thing we did was replace the spark plugs. We then looked at the distributor itself. So just to make sure there was no cracks in the cover, we then looked at the rotor to make sure again that didn't need replacing because of the wear, etc. So from there we reset the points gap, then set the timing, and then of course the last bit was obviously to check the vacuum advance from that point. So at this point we'd looked at air, we'd looked at fuel, and we'd looked at spark. She still wasn't running 100%, so it was time to look at the carby, and this is a Solex 32 PBI, which came standard in 56 with the car. Pulled the carby apart, had a look at the needle, had a look at the float, tried to clean the jets out as best as possible, and after all the faffing around, made the decision to actually replace it with a recast with new internals. It's the same system, so it's still the Solex 32 PBI. And that just made the world of difference as soon as I installed the new carby. We'd looked at the 3 major systems in the car, so the air, fuel and spark. Was happy with how she was running, but there was one improvement that we've made that it's been the greatest significant improvement to the overall running of the car without question, and that is to upgrade to electronic ignition. So what that does is it replaces the condenser and the points obviously within here, and the need to reset the points gap all the time. It still maintains the look of the originality, so it's not a revised distributor, it's just those 2 components in the top. I've kept it within the original Lucas distributor cap, and unless you are super keen-eyed, the only way that you can tell is obviously the additional wire that runs to the coil from there. But what it meant from a reliability, start first time, start every time, far outweighs anything else. So it has been the greatest improvement we've done to the engine. It's a standard gearbox, which is the 4-speed, constant 2-wheel drive, obviously with the option to go into 4-wheel drive, and then of course high and low 4-wheel drive mode from there as well. This vehicle is actually fitted with the Ferry overdrive as well, which for me is great. I know a lot of people use it in the lower gears, but for me, I really only use it from 4th onwards. So I use it as a 5th gear when we're cruising on the freeway. When I say cruising on the freeway, top speed of about 95 kilometers an hour. So let's say 50, 55 miles at this point. The next piece that wasn't actually working was the windscreen wipers. Now these are the FW2, I believe, the Lucas wiper motors. So replaced the arms themselves, pulled all of these pieces off, completely disassembled the wiper motors to understand. And for those who have done that, I'll put up a video as well, but they're obviously like a watch gear. So there's 3 gears within there. So re-grease those components, put them back together, and then gave them the treatment of obviously removing the rust, so a lot of wire brushing that went into there, and then some cold gal again, and then obviously just polished them up and reapplied them. So that was quite a piece to get those running. Now this car actually came with 2. It actually came with a passenger one, which at that time was actually a luxury. So fully spec'd Land Rover Series 1, this one was at that stage. When I mentioned the rust earlier when we purchased the vehicle, the biggest areas of rust, again, in the chassis and then into the bulkhead itself. And what happens quite commonly is water comes and sits at the front. There is no drain for it to actually run out properly unless it's into the very side. So what it was doing was pooling inside, and obviously over time it was the perfect environment for rust to come. What we had was within the bulkhead itself was a really nasty rust hole within here, within the glove compartment, or what would be the glove compartment in a modern car. Over on the left hand side, the passenger side, there was more rust. There was rust that was into the footwells, which again is not uncommon within these cars. So they were pieces that needed to be addressed immediately, just to ensure they didn't obviously spread. And then the process of stripping the interior down, that's when you're only really ever going to find out the extent of the rust, right? It's like a cancer, as we know. Until you investigate, you don't know how far it's actually spread. So there's a whole series that I'll put up around removing, obviously the roof, removing the top rail on the bulkhead. We had to cut that out. My best friend Dean, who's been a part of this process and journey with me, who's been an absolute superstar, was in charge of welding. I can't weld. It's not something that I've tried at this point, and Dean is an expert welder amongst a myriad of other things. So we grabbed another top rail, we cut the old one off, and we welded not only the top rail on, but also that patch as well. So again, there'll be a series, there'll be a video that comes up about that, but you can see clearly the before and after of that. So as far as the internals of the cab took place, it was roof off first, then obviously the windscreen, all of the Lucas wiper motors and all of that componentry was off. The rest of the seals, which were not in great condition at that point, we took off the front levers at the front here, took off the instrument panel, disconnected everything, took that all inside, rewired that, but using the original componentry, which was super important for me. Seat box came out, so seats off, seat box out, tunnel floor obviously out. The pieces that were out were then able to be in the backyard with wire brush, sanded them back to Burma Bright, and then primed and painted those with a gun. What we couldn't remove in the vehicle, once we had done all of the rust restoration pieces, we did with spray cans. So we did with rattle cans in the car. So that was prime and paint within the car itself. The refitting of the instrument panel, and then once we had that in play, the only pieces that are non-standard is we popped in 2 12-volt little charging outlets, primarily for mobile phone use and charging. The oil and water mechanical gauges as well have been replaced. So they're in, and then you can see on the right-hand side, which I'll show you in a moment, of the vehicle, we actually put in the power for the four-wheel drive light bar, which I talked about earlier. We've put in a battery immobilizer, and then there's one for an interior light, which sounds funny with the roof off, but once we've got the roof back on, once we get into the winter months, we'll wire that back up off that switch as well. So this is the original seats. What is not original, of course, is I've had them recovered. So I wanted into canvas, something that was a little more durable. So I've done that, and we'll see in a moment that we've replicated the same material into the tub. The reason I wanted to show you the seats is that we actually retrofitted just some lap sashes. Now, this is primarily for our young kids, so when they are riding with us as well. course, did not come standard in 56 with seat belts. We had to fabricate up some brackets and then make sure that they're going through, I guess, the bottom half of the bulkhead or the back of the tray, and then down into the chassis. And then it's a simple lap sash. So what I love about the option of these is that if we're going out and it's just the adults for the day, or we're going for we're taking the car to the show, is it can actually just be hidden, behind the seat as well and still maintain its originality. We're at the back of the 109. The only pieces that have actually been changed here is just a refresh from here down, basically. Everything from up here is as purchased. There are some plans in the future to change the tailgate pieces out and potentially look at the lights to be something that will probably more from an original standpoint. Once we'd completed the interior, so of the cab itself, what we did was then just put a tourniquet basically on the back of the tub in the same material, the same canvas that I had the front seats done. And that was great for a period of time. And then we went to the next level of restoration and completely revived the back of the tub. So as you can see from the before and what we have now, quite a lot has gone into this. So it was the removal of all of the elements, so all of the supporting pieces, all of the locker box lids, etc., everything out, then back to bare Burma-Bright. So again, wire brushing, sanding, and then priming, and then painting, and again with rattle cans. So not the most ideal or not the most seamless process, but I didn't have a chance to pull the tub off. And in hindsight, I probably would have pulled the tub off and done everything with the gun in the backyard. What it's done is obviously refreshed the tub. I've cold gouged all of these pieces again, not a hot dip, but a cold gouge on them. And then obviously the two bench seats are not standard that came from the Series 1. These are actually seats that came from or come from a Series 2, 3, and of course into the Defenders as well. There's a video that I'll put up that's around the actual installation, the process of having those. But you can see that they're in the same material, the same canvas as to what we've had with the front. So they tie in very, very well. And I'm really happy with how the tub is actually looking to this point. Well, that's it for this video. It's just a really quick walk around Lilybet and what we've actually been able to undertake in this 18-month part restoration so far. There's still a bunch of pieces to do. Obviously, we want to replace all of the sills around the doors, put the door tops back on, put the roof back on, but I'm hoping to actually put it on in a way so that it's far easier to have on and off. Because to be honest, I've thoroughly enjoyed actually having the roof off and driving her as she is now. The next bit is going to be everything underneath. So basically the drivetrain. We want to have a look at the gearbox. There's definitely a leak from the rear main. So we'll have a look at that. There's going to be looking at the diffs. We want to look at the brakes. And then of course the leaf spring systems as well. So if you're interested in any of that, if you have any questions about what we've been able to do so far, please drop them in the comment below. But if you want to come along on this journey with us, because as I said, the adventures are only just beginning with Lilybet, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button and come along with us. Let's get our hands dirty together.